The vast expanse of the Galactic Confederation's Grand Council chamber unfolded before me, its immense crystalline dome refracting the light of 3 different suns. As Ambassador Quill Ara of the Zenari species, I had witnessed numerous debates in this revered hall. Yet today marked the dawn of what could be our gravest error. We must eradicate the humans, declared High Counselor Bra, his voice resonating throughout the chamber, his purple scales visibly agitated. They are far too unpredictable and unstable. Consider how they transformed a mere mining mishap into a breakthrough in their fusion technology last cycle. Who behaves like that? I shifted uneasily in my floating seat, feeling the consensus of approval that flowed through the assembly. 200 species, each nodding in unison like mindless avians pecking at feed. If you will allow me to speak, I interjected, raising my foremost limb and adopting the solemn tone required by council etiquette. It seems we may be acting prematurely. The humans have indeed demonstrated remarkable. Remarkable? Interrupted Ambassador Tylock, her crystalline body scattering light patterns throughout the room. Recall how just 3 cycles ago, they transformed our sanitation systems into what they now call entertainment centers. They find amusement in sanitation. A wave of disapproving murmurs spread across the chamber. I resisted the urge to withdraw my eye stalks in dismay. Yes, humans were unconventional. Yes, they tackled problems from seemingly absurd angles. Yet, it was this very unpredictability that made them intriguing. They repurposed a planetary defense mechanism into a worldwide communication network, grumbled Representative Mook from the Helen Collective, his gaseous form visibly agitated. And when we insisted they stop this unauthorized modification, they proposed to enhance our own systems instead. I must interject, I said. Those enhancements they proposed increased our efficiencies by 3-fold, did they not? That is beside the point. High Counselor Bra thundered, striking his ceremonial staff on the floor. They disregard protocols, they ignore the established progression of technology. They misuse our refined innovations for their amusement. The room burst into a chorus of assent. I observed as decades of diplomatic caution disintegrated under the weight of old-fashioned trepidation. At its core, this was about fear of the unknown, fear of the unpredictable, fear of a species that regarded the cosmos's laws as mere suggestions. They've even begun to reach out to other civilizations directly, sneered Ambassador Yola, her feathered crest bristling. They've offered trade agreements outside official routes and proposed cultural exchanges. Did you hear about their invitation to the Proxen for something called a barbecue? The shock and disbelief were palpable. I considered mentioning that the Proxen had actually found the event enjoyable, but I held back, knowing my words would be lost in the prevailing atmosphere of apprehension. What about their military capabilities? Inquired a voice from the higher tiers. High Counselor Bra gestured dismissively with his staff. Their military technology is rudimentary. They have only just begun to navigate interstellar travel. Their ships are a mishmash of borrowed technologies they barely grasp. They pose no threat to a unified front from the Confederation. My stomach churned with acid. This was the final blow, underestimation. Humans were not primitive. They were simply different. They did not think like us, solve problems like us, nor did they fight like us. This made them unpredictably dangerous, a concept my peers failed to grasp. I call for a vote, Bra announced, his scales a deep purple with resolute determination. All in favor of activating the containment protocol against the human species. Raise your appendages. I watched in dismay as appendages, tentacles, light signals, and pheromone indicators were raised across the chamber. A unanimous decision, apart from my lone dissenting vote. The motion passes, Bra declared, his tone grimly satisfied. The humans will be contained. Their threat to galactic stability ends today. As the chamber filled with self-congratulatory noises, a profound dread settled in my core. These arrogant, fearful fools, they were not quelling a threat. They were provoking a dormant behemoth. They chose the Centaur Peace Conference for their strike, which only worsened the situation. Humans, I came to understand, harbor a unique disdain for those who violate diplomatic norms. Ambassador Jessica Blackwood arrived punctually, her streamlined diplomatic craft displaying all the appropriate clearances. I watched as she descended from the ship, her dark hair neatly braided, her diplomatic uniform crisply tailored. She even adorned the traditional colors of peace, though on her, the pale blue and silver seemed especially vibrant, pulsating with life. Ambassador Quill Ara, she greeted me, her smile, a peculiarly human gesture, radiant. Thank you for arranging these talks. Earth is keen to address the Council's concerns about our technological innovations. If only she knew, if only I had the courage to alert her. But I was a coward, shackled by Council protocols and my own fear of retribution. So, I merely extended my leading appendage in greeting and escorted her Counselor to the Grand Chamber. The Council values Earth's readiness to discuss. I lied, my voice steady despite the turmoil within me. High Counselor Bra will preside over the session. Wonderful, she clapped her hands, a distinctly human expression of enthusiasm. I have drafted several proposals that should alleviate the Council's apprehensions. Additionally, we've brought samples demonstrating our enhancements to the waste management systems. We never witnessed those proposals. We never heard her explanations. For as Jessica Blackwood stepped onto the dais, High Counselor Bra activated the containment field. I will always remember the look of perplexity on her face as the quantum barrier encased her. Initially, it was not fear but something far more disheartening, disappointment. Ambassador Cora, her voice, still composed and diplomatic, transmitted through the barrier's communication system. It appears there is some sort of malfunction. Before I could even process my own disgrace, I managed to respond. Brax's voice thundered across the chamber. There is no malfunction, human. This is containment. As the quantum barrier tightened, I resisted the urge to look away. It was imperative that someone bore witness, that someone would remember this moment. Jessica Blackwood straightened her posture, her gaze fixed on Brax with unwavering resolve. The Earth Federation will regard this as an act of war, she declared, her tone as incisive as a plasma cutter. You may not see us as enemies now, but we can certainly become one. Brax's response was a scornful laugh. Your primitive species stands no chance against the collective might of the Confederation. We note your threat and we dismiss it. As the barrier constricted further, Jessica turned to me, and in her eyes, I saw not enmity but pity. They never learned our history, did they, Ambassador? Those were her final words before the barrier completed its protocol, leaving behind nothing but a vacant space where she had stood and a cloud of settling dust. The chamber burst into a cacophony of celebratory noise. Representatives chittered, hummed, and signaled their joy. High Counselor Brax, triumphantly wielding his staff, his scales radiantly smug, proclaimed, the human threat is neutralized. Their ambassador is no more, their cautions irrelevant. We now commence the full containment of their species. A wave of nausea overcame me, not merely from the horror of the execution I had just witnessed but from the sheer folly of it all. The Council, in its fear of human unpredictability, had responded with a brutally predictable act. They had adhered to an age-worn protocol, the same used against countless emerging species. But humans were not like the others. Send the order to all Confederation worlds, Brax bellowed, reveling in his perceived victory. Begin the containment of Earth immediately. Their vessels will be disabled, their colonies isolated, their communications cut. By the next cycle, humanity will be confined to their own solar system, left to tinker with their pilfered technologies without risking our galactic stability. As the festivities continued, representatives discussed the division of human territories, the appropriation of their innovations, and how to steer humanity back onto a controlled developmental path. Amidst the hubbub, I alone noticed when the chamber's primary communication array blinked out. I alone saw the brief flicker of the quantum barriers, and I alone grasped the significance when every human spacecraft within Confederation territory simultaneously vanished from our sensors. The Council's celebration of their swift containment lasted precisely 6 hours. Then the first reports began to arrive. By then, it was irrevocably too late. They hadn't merely executed a diplomat. They hadn't just murdered an ambassador. They had killed Jessica Blackwood, daughter, sister, friend, a graduate of Earth's Strategic Response Academy. They had violated every diplomatic agreement ever made with humanity while she was actively extending a gesture of peace. And soon, they would discover why humans had thrived on their challenging homeworld for so long, why they repurposed defense mechanisms into global networks, why they transformed sanitation systems into sources of amusement. Because humans don't just adapt technology, they adapt themselves to war, to retribution, to triumph. As the celebrations in the chamber began to wind down, my communication implant picked up a simple message. It was being broadcast on all frequencies, in all languages, across every corner of Confederation space. Diplomatic solutions have failed. Initiating Protocol Blackwood's response. And that's when I knew. We hadn't contained humanity, we had unleashed them. In the Grand Chamber, the Council appreciates Earth's willingness to engage in dialogue. I lied, my voice steady despite the acid churning in my stomachs. High Counselor Brax himself will be presiding. Wonderful. She actually clapped her hands together, another of those strange human gestures. I've prepared several proposals that I think will ease the Council's concerns. Plus, we've brought samples of how we've improved the waste management systems. We never got to see those proposals. We never heard her explanations because, as Jessica Blackwood stepped onto the speaking platform, High Counselor Brax activated the containment field. I'll never forget the look of confusion on her face as the quantum barrier sprang up around her. It wasn't fear, not at first. It was something worse, disappointment. Ambassador Cora, her voice came through the barrier's communication system, still steady, still diplomatic. There seems to be some sort of malfunction. Before I could respond, before I could even process my own shame, Brax's voice boomed through the chamber. There is no malfunction, human. This is containment. The quantum barrier began to constrict. I wanted to look away, but I forced myself to watch. Someone needed to witness this. Someone needed to remember. Jessica Blackwood straightened her spine and looked directly at Brax. Even then, even knowing what was coming, she maintained her dignity. The Earth Federation will consider this an act of war, she stated, her voice sharp as a plasma cutter. Whatever you think of us, we are not your enemy, but we can become one. Brax laughed, actually laughed. Your primitive species cannot hope to stand against the unified might of the Confederation. Your threat is noted and dismissed. The barrier contracted further. Jessica turned to me, and I saw something in her eyes that would haunt me forever. Not hatred, but pity. They never read our history, did they, Ambassador? Those were her last words. The barrier completed its containment protocol. Where Jessica Blackwood had stood, there was now only empty air and settling dust. The chamber erupted in celebration. Representatives chittered, hummed, and flashed their approval. High Counselor Brax raised his staff in triumph, his scales glowing with smug satisfaction. The human threat is contained, he proclaimed. Their ambassador eliminated, their warnings rendered meaningless. Now we can begin the full containment of their species. I felt sick, not just because of the murder I just witnessed, but because of the sheer stupidity of it all. In their fear of human unpredictability, the Council had just acted with brutal predictability. They'd followed the same tired protocol they'd used on dozens of other rising species. But humans weren't like other species. Send the message to all Confederation worlds, Brax commanded, still basking in his moment of glory. The containment operation for Earth commenced today. Their vessels immobilized, their outposts cut off, their signals blocked. By the next cycle, humanity will be confined within their solar system, tampering with their acquired tech without posing a threat to galactic peace, declared the Assembly. Jubilation spread as delegates debated the division of human territories, the regulation of their innovations, and strategies for reorienting human development. Amidst the festivities, I was the sole witness to the dimming of the chamber's main communication array. I alone caught the brief instability in the quantum barriers surrounding the chamber, and I alone grasped the grave implication when every human vessel in Confederation space vanished from our monitors at once. The Council's triumph over containing humanity lasted precisely 6 hours before the initial reports disrupted the celebrations. What they had done was not merely eliminate a diplomat. They had executed Jessica Blackwood, an Earthling who was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a graduate of Earth's Strategic Response Academy. They executed her despite all established diplomatic agreements. They executed her while she extended a peace offering. And now they would confront the resilience of humanity. The species that thrived on a planet that could obliterate them, that repurposed defense mechanisms for communication, that converted waste management systems into sources of amusement. Humans do not simply adjust technology. They transform themselves for combat, for retribution, for conquest. As the revelry in the chamber started to ebb, a message transmitted through my communication implant. It echoed across every Confederation channel in all languages. Diplomatic measures have failed. Enacting Protocol Blackwood's response. At that moment, I realized we hadn't confined humanity. We had provoked them. The moment Earth disclosed, "Here's your rephrased script with the necessary changes," the hall was overtaken by dismay and turmoil, and High Counselor Bra declared all was under control. A clear misjudgment. Communication with 37 additional vessels has been severed, proclaimed Admiral Pex, his glow markings flickering with distress. Meanwhile, the Xenui Defense Network began displaying peculiar transmissions labeled cat videos. Before anyone could react, every display in the council chamber illuminated at once. The image that emerged was unmistakably that of a human woman, identifiable by her silver-streaked black hair and piercing gaze. She was Fleet Admiral Sandra Blackwood, known from Earth's media, Jessica's mother. Salutations, Galactic Confederation. Her voice resonated, filled with a calm that heralds chaos. The vast screen behind her showcased a tactical map of Confederation territories, suddenly swarmed by countless red markers, each signifying an undetected human battleship, vessels that, by our records, should not exist. conquest. Oh no, I murmured, realization hitting. All the human technological tweaks we had dismissed as mere disorder were anything but. Your initial error, Admiral Blackwood stated, was underestimating our grasp of the technologies we've adopted. Your second error was assuming those were the extent of our innovations. Your final error was exterminating my daughter as she endeavored to avert this crisis. Bra managed to gather his thoughts, stuttering, "This can't be. Our sensors would have caught any discrepancies." Your sensors? Admiral Blackwood allowed a faint smile to appear. The very ones we upgraded last cycle? Those sensors? As realization dawned on the assembly, the chamber descended into pandemonium. Each technological enhancement, every peculiar modification, every system upgrade we had accepted from humans, they were all part of a contingency strategy, not initially aimed at conquest. For the record, Admiral Blackwood continued, Jessica was a proponent of peaceful coexistence. She dedicated her life to fostering collaboration between our species. As a tribute to her, I offer you one opportunity to capitulate. The Confederation does not yield to primitives, Bra asserted, his scales turning a vivid shade of alarm. Admiral Blackwood exhaled a weary sigh. I feared you'd respond that way. Very well, Commander Patel, proceed. The screen divided, revealing a young human male at the helm of a command center. With pleasure, Admiral. Activating Project Checkmate. In an instant, all defense mechanisms in the capital ceased operation, not by destruction but simply by being switched off. Quantum barriers, plasma shields, neural disruptors, all inactive. An interesting point, Admiral Blackwood remarked casually, when we converted your waste management into entertainment hubs, it wasn't just for amusement. It was a probe into how your foundational code functions. Quite enlightening, outside the chamber's transparent dome, human vessels began to materialize, not emerging from hyperspace but already present, concealed by technology we were oblivious to. Do you recall those trade agreements we entered? Admiral Blackwood's voice bore a trace of satisfaction. The ones you dismissed as disorderly? Each facilitated the placement of our maintenance teams throughout your sectors. Teams that, over the last cycle, integrated our technology with yours. Across the capital, a sequence of explosions echoed, targeting military installations we believed were impenetrable. Human ground troops materialized, their armor rendering them nearly invisible until movement betrayed their presence. The defense network, someone bellowed. Activate the defense grid. On that note, Commander Patel interjected. Recall our offer to enhance your communication systems? When you interconnect everything for optimal efficiency, a single backdoor grants access to the entire network. To illustrate, every weapon in the Confederation arsenal redirected towards its own command hub, not firing, but clearly indicating who held the reins. Concerned about those missing vessels? Admiral Blackwood added. No need for alarm. We simply requisitioned them. Your personnel are unharmed, currently enjoying what my people refer to as an all-inclusive vacation. Quite a few have taken a liking to something called reality TV. From my office window, I observed an increasing number of human vessels materializing, each showcasing technologies previously deemed impossible. Ships manipulating gravity, weapons that relocated matter instead of destroying it, and defense mechanisms that reversed incoming attacks. Commander Patel chimed in, by the way, those improbable energy readings you noticed? That wasn't us relocating Earth. It was us shifting your long-range sensor stations. We thought they'd appreciate a better perspective of what's to come. The panic in the council chamber escalated as representatives grasped the full magnitude of humanity's retaliation. This was no mere counterstrike. It was an unveiling of a might that had been amassing covertly, masquerading as disorder and inefficiency. Admiral Blackwood's tone hardened. One last point. The cultural exchange programs we initiated, the ones you wrote off as overly simplistic, they were more than mere gestures of goodwill. They were about gaining insight, about identifying those among you who treated other species with dignity, who acted with kindness, who, like my daughter, aspired for more than just fear and isolation. On cue, several council members, those who had advocated for peaceful engagements with Earth, received notifications on their private channels. Their territories, their people, their assets were all meticulously safeguarded from the impending havoc. The others, they were about to witness firsthand what humans were capable of when they shed their pretenses. In tribute to my daughter, Admiral Blackwood declared, you have 1 hour to capitulate. Beyond that, our patience ends. And trust me, you do not want to see what happens when we lose our patience. The feed went dark, leaving us in a chamber now bathed in the amber glow of fear, filled with representatives of the galaxy's mightiest civilizations, all suddenly aware that we hadn't been corralling a backward species. We had been coexisting in a universe silently dominated by humanity. They simply hadn't informed us until we provoked them. High Counselor Bra, his scales now a stark white from dread, turned to me. Ambassador Quora, what do they mean by stop being nice? I gazed at the tactical display, still depicting the vast expanse of human military presence in our space, and couldn't help but chuckle. Counselor, it seems we're about to understand why humans often warn, don't make mom angry, and as the atmosphere grew more tense, the sound of Earth's ancient tune permeated our supposedly impregnable systems, the final countdown playing its final refrain. Observing the Galactic Confederation unravel was akin to witnessing a controlled demolition, breathtaking, inevitable, and wholly self-inflicted. As the hour set by Admiral Blackwood dwindled, the council chamber morphed into a frenzy of frantic negotiation. Maybe we could propose exclusive trading privileges, suggested Ambassador Yola, her feathers now slicked back in alarm. We already granted those, I reminded her. We just weren't aware of it, as they orchestrated it all through shell corporations we mistook for independent entities. In the Grand Chamber, High Counselor Bra, who had finally ceased his protests about the incessant Earth music, raised his ceremonial staff. We still possess options, our secret weapons facilities on. You mean the facilities that just declared their allegiance? Interrupted Commander Patel's voice, intruding on our supposedly secure communication. Those installations now fall under the stewardship of an endearing Earth entity known as Disney. The collective terror among the council members escalated when our stellar maps auto-updated, revealing dozens of human research outposts previously unseen, strategically situated near our most confidential facilities. Admiral Blackwood's voice once again filled the chamber, her tone tinged with a mix of amusement and sternness. Did you truly believe that humans had only one method of faster-than-light travel? The ships you've been monitoring, just decoys, quite elaborate ones at that. Outside, through the chamber's expansive dome, we witnessed the fabric of reality appearing to warp. Human ships didn't just traverse space, they manipulated it to their will, stepping through the cosmos as if rearranging its very structure. I turned to the council, now visibly unnerved. Remember those bizarre human TV shows we intercepted? The ones featuring seemingly fanciful space travel technologies? They weren't fiction, they were factual documentaries, a holographic display activated at the center of the chamber, illustrating the true breadth of human ingenuity. They hadn't merely adopted our technologies, they had evolved beyond them. Quantum computing was reduced to mere gaming tools. Antimatter was casually used to power their kitchen appliances. Commander Patel's voice broke through, chipper as ever, 45 minutes remaining until the deadline. Oh, and we've updated your translation modules to properly interpret human sarcasm. You're welcome. Representative Mu, typically a swirling mass of gas, had condensed into a denser form, exuding anxiety. He stuttered, but what about the laws of physics? Admiral Blackwood's reply was laced with mirth. Oh, those? We consider them more like guidelines. Creative interpretation is quite our specialty. It was suddenly crystal clear. The seemingly chaotic human technological experiments, their strange modifications, their so-called cultural exchanges, each was a calculated move, testing our defenses, implanting backdoors, collecting intelligence under the guise of friendship. 30 minutes left, Commander Patel updated, his tone light, almost mocking. We're open to accepting your surrender in various forms, through interspecies dance, quantum harmony, or even traditional Earth-style paper airplanes. High Counselor Bra, overwhelmed and desperate, finally erupted. But how? How did you conceal all this from us? The answer appeared unexpectedly on my own data screen, which activated itself to display every piece of ignored or misunderstood intelligence I had gathered about humans. It showcased every unusual activity, every dismissed warning, effectively painting a picture of our collective ignorance and arrogance. We didn't conceal anything, Admiral Blackwood clarified. We demonstrated exactly who we are. You just refused to believe that a species could advance in such a divergent manner from your own. When we transformed your weapons into art installations, that was us taking control of your tech. When we repurposed your defense grids for entertainment, that was us mastering your infrastructures. Commander Patel chimed in again. 15 minutes now. We've started a betting pool on which council member will concede first. Most bets are on the one whose scales can't decide on a color. Bra, visibly shaken, his scales now a flurry of changing hues, symbolized the panic that had gripped the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Their understanding of humanity had been fundamentally flawed, and now they were at the mercy of a species that played by a different set of rules. Rules they were only beginning to comprehend. 3 solar cycles later, the galaxy is unrecognizably transformed under human guidance, and not in the dire ways we once feared. It's actually quite humorous. Humans didn't dismantle the Galactic Confederation. Instead, they remodeled it. Their first order of business? They converted our austere council chamber into what they refer to as an open-plan office. Now, delegates must reserve space for meetings using a system name, Outlook, which I suspect is a sophisticated form of human amusement, possibly even mild torture. High Counselor Bra, once a figure of authority and now a retiree, has been relocated to a human recreational facility known as a golf course. Reports indicate he's taken up the challenge of improving his handicap with vigor, an endeavor that has his scales permanently tinted a shade of what can only be described as embarrassed pink. The humans introduced a technological sharing program that, to our surprise, addressed several inefficiencies we hadn't even recognized. Our waste management systems have been upgraded, our defense networks optimized, and our quantum computing infrastructures are now dual-purpose, handling both military strategies and something they've introduced called Twitter. And then there's me. I've been appointed as the new liaison between Earth and the Confederation. Why? Because, according to Admiral Blackwood, I was the only one with enough sense to be appropriately alarmed. She now oversees what she modestly describes as cooperative guidance, though the reality that each piece of our technology now includes a human-engineered backdoor is a reminder of their pervasive influence. Commander Patel has taken the helm of what the humans jovially dub strategic innovation. This department's primary function seems to be unleashing human creativity on our technologies to see what novel applications they can devise. It's a constant cycle of surprise and adjustment for us, but undeniably, it keeps the galaxy interesting. From our new open-plan offices, where once solemn deliberations took place, we now engage in continuous collaboration and occasional confusion as we navigate this new interspecies workspace. Admiral Blackwood continues to assure us that every human modification to our systems is intended as a security feature. In this new era, where human influence weaves through every layer of galactic operation, the Confederation has learned to embrace the unexpected. Turns out, the human penchant for turning everything into entertainment wasn't just a strategy, it was a philosophy, one that has unexpectedly revitalized our galactic consortium. Your conclusion captures the profound shift in intergalactic relations brought about by humanity's unorthodox methods. Here's a streamlined version that retains the essence and impact of your message. Last week, they repurposed a planetary defense shield into what they now boast as a galaxy-wide Wi-Fi hotspot. Surprisingly, the internet connection has improved dramatically. From this, we've distilled some critical insights about humanity. First, their entertainment isn't just for amusement, though science fiction series might as well be technical manuals. Second, if a human proposes to enhance your technology, rest assured they've already mastered multiple ways to do so. And third, never harm one of their own. They respond in ways that are both devastatingly effective and unexpectedly ironic. The new Galactic Charter, drafted under human oversight, adheres to one paramount rule: don't be the reason humans have to get creative. All other considerations fall under what they whimsically call common sense, a concept that, it turns out, isn't as universal as once thought. To any civilization that might consider contacting Earth in the future, beware. Those seemingly primitive ships, decoys, the archaic weapons, also decoys, their seemingly disordered technological approach, that's genuinely how they operate, and it's unnervingly effective. If humans offer technological assistance, accept it. If they propose a cultural exchange, embrace it. And if invited to a barbecue, definitely attend. And yes, bring potato salad. Attempting to confine them? A futile endeavor, as many have learned the hard way. The memorial for Jessica Blackwood in the Confederation capital isn't a typical monument. It's a vibrant public park where diverse species convene to exchange tales, innovations, and indulge in ice cream. It's a fitting tribute, embodying the spirit of what she stood for. The engraving there serves as a constant reminder. Here lies the last error of the old Confederation and the first lesson of the new. Never underestimate a species that views universal laws as mere suggestions. As for me, my days are now spent helping others navigate the chaos of human ingenuity, often explaining why their latest improvement turned a sophisticated weapon into a kitchen appliance, and why they probably don't want the details. It's become clear that humanity's capacity to surprise is not a glitch. It's the cornerstone of their approach to the cosmos. End of report. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to a barbecue hosted by Admiral Blackwood. I'm told her potato salad is not to be missed.